Our vision is that when people think about Northeast Ohio, they think about additive manufacturing in the same way that we think about software when we think about the Silicon Valley.
Hello, and welcome to the G&O Summer Road Trip podcast series, brought to you by the Fund for Our Economic Future. Each week, we'll hear a story of growth and opportunity from your communities throughout Northeast Ohio. I'm your host, Madison Scagnetti. You've probably all seen a 3D movie, but 3D printing? Maybe you haven't yet seen the potential of this emerging industry in Northeast Ohio. For this week's episode of G&O Summer Road Trip, I sat down with Barb Ewing, CEO of the Youngstown Business Incubator, YBI, to learn more about this new cluster of activity and why there's so much excitement around it. We started off our conversation with some background on YBI.
Well, we started out in the 1990s as just a general purpose incubator. The governor at the time, Governor Voinovich, had created the Edison program that had 7 different technology areas that they wanted the incubators to align with in order to receive state funding. Being a very pragmatic people, we decided that we would align and determine that the best suite of services that we could offer fell into the software area and started developing programs to support that. In 2012, when the White House announced the creation of the National Network for Manufacturing Innovation, we had the good fortune to be part of a winning team, and we brought the very first manufacturing institute, America Makes, which is focused on additive manufacturing, to our campus. And that allowed us to expand our footprint to include startups in additive manufacturing or 3D printing, but also to begin working more directly with companies to help them adopt new technologies. So now we're really a two-headed animal. We have our entrepreneurship side, and then we also have the software side. Our mission is to facilitate the creation of wealth and jobs through technology-based businesses, partnerships, collaboration, helping our community both develop new technologies and commercialize it to the market, as well as integrating new technologies into the existing manufacturing base.
Advanced manufacturing, additive manufacturing, 3D printing. You've heard them all before, but what exactly do these terms mean? I thought I'd ask the expert for a little clarification.
Advanced manufacturing is a very broad topic area, and it can include anything from robotics or advanced materials to the use of additive manufacturing for production. And there's not any single definition of advanced manufacturing. The one that we are most closely aligned with is specifically additive manufacturing, and that's a process by which you add very precisely the layers of materials that you want only exactly where you want it. And then you bind them together either using chemicals or lasers or some other force. And so you're usually building from above or below. So you can literally print a ship in a bottle and a bottle in a bottle. There are no limitations on how complicated the design is. There are limitations on the technology, but the design really will allow you to create whatever you can envision.
Barb shared how she sees Youngstown playing a leadership role in revisioning what manufacturing looks like in the Valley.
I think right now the most important role that we're playing involves the partnership with America Makes, Team Neo, and Magnet to implement the cluster study that we conducted 2 years ago on how to build an additive manufacturing cluster in Northeast Ohio.
The study Barb referenced, which was supported by our fund, found that additive manufacturing could result in as many as 65,000 jobs over the next 15 years in the state of Ohio. It could improve the competitiveness of our existing manufacturing sector, shift high-value occupations into the region, and capture attractive new markets. According to the report, this opportunity is relevant to 1,900 metal fabricators and 800 plastic processors, who collectively employ more than 100,000 people, or about 5% of our regional workforce. For a full copy of the report, go to www.neohioamcluster.org. Barb continued with her vision for our region.
Our vision is that when people think about Northeast Ohio, they think about additive manufacturing in the same way that we think about software when we think about the Silicon Valley. We've been working with universities and industry and government agencies across a number of different silos, identifying programs and needs that have to be filled in order to make that vision happen. And even though we've only really been working on the implementation for less than a year, we're already seeing really great traction and building wonderful programs that have allowed us to move that program forward. And I think that the strength of that partnership with support from the Fund for Economic Future really is very directly changing the trajectory of manufacturing in Northeast Ohio and the state as a whole, and also in the U.S.
The work YBI is doing seems to be the way of the future, so I asked Barb what a 12th grader in Youngstown should know about YBI.
Well, I think there are two very different but very important messages for a 12th grader. First, we always want to underscore that there are chances and opportunities to own your own business, no matter what your background is. If you will think like an entrepreneur and try to identify needs that you have or gaps in the market that you'd like to see filled, whether it's somebody in your neighborhood who has 10 dogs that need walked and you're willing to go be a dog walker, or if it's something at your school, a product to support your football team or something else, that there are always opportunities to start a business. And we want people thinking about creating new wealth and building businesses that can support economic development in a wide variety of different areas. It doesn't have to be technology-based businesses where we're focused to have true value. A lot of good companies have nothing to do with technologies, and they still employ a lot of people and make a very good living for their owners. The other thing we would want them to know about is that additive manufacturing is not just for making tchotchkes on desktop printer, that there are very sophisticated pieces of equipment that are used for everything from parts for airplanes to biomedical parts, and developing new implants or new processes for treating burn victims using additive manufacturing and skin cells. Manufacturing in this decade, in this century, is very different than manufacturing in the past. It is now for smart workers. It is very high value added, and it's really a great occupation. And there are tremendous opportunities in manufacturing that have been enabled by new technologies.
Barb shared what she is most proud of.
I think I'm most proud about the fact that previously, when I first started working in downtown Youngstown, there was such a stigma associated with our community. And over the many years I've worked in this field, and the last 6 years that I've been at YBI, and then even before that, we have seen a sea change in Youngstown and its perception around the world. And I know that YBI is a big part of that story, of getting people to think about all of Northeast Ohio, but in particular our community, in a different way. And I think on a daily basis we see the impact of that we know that Youngstown's a good place to be. It's a great place to be, and more we're seeing other people recognizing that as well.
Since this is a summer road trip podcast series, I asked Barb one last question. What was your best summer road trip?
My stepfather and my best friend at the time and I went to China and Beijing right after I graduated from college. It was a little bit more than a road trip. There were quite a few flights involved there too, but it was fabulous. And I had the unique experience of not only being a tourist, but we were also doing work. My stepfather was doing work in China at the time, and so I had the opportunity to actually see a little bit of the business community at the same time. That's a pretty big road trip. It's a pretty good road trip.
Thank you to Barb for sitting down with me for a crash course in one of Northeast Ohio's exciting emerging industries. Also, thank you to all that are listening, and stay tuned to see where our summer road trip takes us next week.